The monkeys in the barrel are designed by Hasbro, in this case Hasbro, to be able to lock arms in such a way that one monkey can reach out and grab another monkey. And then that monkey, through careful orchestration, can reach out and grab another monkey who can reach out and grab another monkey. Now, I don't want to make it sound easy because it's not. You saw I could only grab 4 there. But when it works, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So 2 weeks ago, we introduced our mission statement here at church, and the mission is that one more person might come to know the saving love of Jesus. That one more person might experience the saving love of Jesus. And our vision for how we are going to accomplish that is really encapsulated in the barrel of monkeys. The way it's going to work is one person reaching out to another person, and another person reaching out to another person, and in time the kingdom grows. In time the chain slowly expands. Each one reach one. This is our vision. Each one of us working to reach one person. In the same way that the monkeys were designed by Hasbro to lock arms, we have been designed by God. He has designed us, He has wired us in such a way that we are relational by nature. And what that means is that we influence one another. It goes both ways. We influence others, other people influence us, and we're designed to use those relationships to imitate God and to be God's ambassadors, to be His representatives to this world. It is what we were designed to do. So last week we talked about the front half of that vision statement, the each one. And we made the point that each one means each one. That means there is not a person sitting here for whom this does not apply. You are an each one. And that means that God has designed you, wired you with your unique personality, with your unique gifting and perspectives and relational networks. He has designed you to carry out this mission. We heard the testimony from the Whitney family last week, and what I loved about it is how God used some girls who were in 4th grade. Cora Housingay and Emily Mirama and McKenna Campy, and how God used them to reach a family and welcome them into the community of faith, each one of us. So last week when you left, we passed out a card and asked you to be prayerful about who you might be reaching out to intentionally, who your one would be. And we also passed out a prayer guide, which I'm going to be saying more about in just a few moments. Our hope is that you will take this seriously. My hope is that you have not already discarded that. And if you have, grab another one today on your way out. If you didn't get one, grab one. On October 11 and 18, we're going to have a bowl here, and we're going to invite you to come back and place the name of the person that you are going to be praying for, that you're going to be befriending and loving in Jesus' name. We're going to invite you to put that name in the bowl, and it's going to stay in that bowl as a prayer offering. We're going to invite God to pray for these people that we are intentionally reaching out to. So today what I want to do is move forward. We've talked about each one, and today I want to move forward and focus in on the reach one. And I will be honest with you, there is something that I have a concern about with this mission and vision. The danger in this vision, as I see it, is that it would be really easy for us to just subtly, not intentionally, begin to think of my one, the person that I'm reaching out to, as a project. Like I'm trying to get them to do something. This is my project. I'm befriending them. I'm praying for them. I'm loving them so that they will come to church, or so that they will come to my small group, or so that they will, better yet, become a Christian. Now, of course, it is our hope and our prayer that all of those things might happen. But our relationship with our one cannot be conditioned upon them taking some steps. Nobody, including you, wants to be anyone's project. People aren't interested in being a project. And if they are, they will sniff it out immediately if your relationship is not genuine, if it is not sincere. I'll give you an example. Occasionally I'll be in my office and Sue will forward a call up to me, and it's a salesman. And the salesman wants to get the church to buy something. And the salesman does what the salesman does, and they try to develop a relationship in 3 minutes with me. And I have never been called brother so many times in a 3-minute span. Brother, brother, brother. And they're my best friend, and they want to pray for me, and they want to pray for our church. But the salesman and I both know where that conversation is going. Eventually, that conversation is going to I have some ice melt that would be great for your church to buy. And as soon as it becomes clear that we're not interested in the ice melt, the relationship ends pretty quickly. It's kind of artificial in a way. Now, I'm not trying to be hard on salesmen. That's their job. When it comes to friendship, when it comes to relationships, people don't want a relationship with somebody who's trying to make a sale. People don't want to be sold something. And if that's all that it's about, then don't waste your time. People don't want a relationship which only exists for some kind of transaction to occur. It's got to be genuine. And what that means is that there's no timetable on this relationship. If you're going to enter into a relationship with someone and you're going to pray for them and you're going to befriend them and you're going to love them, there is no end date to that. If it's genuine, you're going to do that, and we're going to trust God's timetable. We're going to trust God to be at work, which gets to our motives. Why are we doing this? I hope that we can all be honest that motives are tricky things. And I think probably every one of us has some motives that are not entirely pure. So let me be honest with you about some of mine. I have several ones right now, and part of me hopes that they will come to church so that I'm going to look good. My one came to church. Isn't your pastor a good pastor? Part of me hopes that they're going to come so that we can grow our church. Part of me hopes that they're going to do something so that I can say to you, look at me and do what I'm doing. Now, I recognize I've got some impure motives. So what do we do with that? Because I'm going to assume we all have some impure motives. I'm just doing this because the church says that I should. What do we do with that? I think what we do is, one, we acknowledge it. Recognize I've got some ickiness inside me. And then two, we confess it to God. Lord, you know there's some junk in my heart, and I pray that you would cleanse me from that, purify me. And I pray that my ultimate motive would be to glorify you. You designed me to do this. I want to do what you've called me to do. And so we make that a matter of prayer. Now here's what I think is really good news. We are not the first Christians to wrestle with impure motives. People have been wrestling with dark motives forever. The Apostle Paul had many ones over the years. He planted many churches, and on occasion he was accused of having insincere motives. You're doing this for some ulterior motive. One of those occasions was when he was in the city of Thessalonica. He came there, he ministered to people, shared the good news of Jesus Christ, planted a church, left, and then some people came into that community who didn't like Paul, and so they began to say to the church that he planted, he was doing that because he wants your money. He was doing that because he wants to make a name for himself. He wants to look good. And so part of Paul's letter back to the Thessalonian church was answering those accusations. And so we're going to look at a passage of Scripture from 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, and there's some principles that we're going to be able to pull out of this passage that are going to help us as we begin to think about reaching other people. So this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, starting with verse 1. You know, brothers, that our visit to you was not a failure. We had previously suffered and had been insulted in Philippi, as you know. But with the help of our God, we dared to tell you his gospel in spite of strong opposition. So I want to stop there for a moment and just pull out a few principles. So as you know, we had previously suffered and been insulted in Philippi. So if we just rewind the story, you would find that story in Acts chapter 16. Paul and Silas, and they're in Philippi, and some amazing things happen there. God leads them to a woman named Lydia, and they share the gospel with her, and the Lord opens her heart, and she gets baptized, she and her entire household, and her home becomes the hub of the church and the westward expansion of the church. And while they're in Philippi, they also heal a girl who's a slave girl who's tormented by evil spirits. And then later when they're in Philippi, they lead a jailer and his family to the Lord. And he gets baptized and his family gets baptized. But the reason they have a relationship with a jailer is because they're in jail. They have been beaten, they have been stripped and whipped, and then they have been imprisoned, falsely accused of throwing the city into an uproar. So this leads me to my first takeaway. If our motives for why we're reaching one, if they are entirely driven by some selfish reason, some self-serving reason, there's no way that we're going to persevere in ministry. Because it's not easy. There is no way that we are going to continue to reach out to our one if our motive is self-serving. It's just too hard to do. There are so many joys in ministry. But friends, there is also some sorrows. We are reaching out to people who, guess what? They're like us, which means they're sinners. And so sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it means we get a little beat up in the process. I'm reminded of a time when our church, the parsonage next door, was vacant. And there was a young family in our community that was desperate. They were in a fix. And so the leaders of the church got together and decided, you know what, we're going to invite them to live in the parsonage for just a short amount of time so that they can get things figured out, get back on their feet. And so we invited them in. And Laura and somebody else, I forget who, went to get some groceries and get some items for them. And brought them back to the house, and they're unpacking them, and the mom unpacked them and took out some shampoo, and it was some generic shampoo, and she said, "Oh no, I can only have strawberry Suave shampoo." I thought Laura's head was going to pop off. and we're thinking the same thing, like, you've got to be kidding. Like, we have invited you into the parsonage, no charge, we are buying you groceries, we are buying you these things, and you want us to go back to get you some strawberry Suave shampoo. Now, if our motive was self-serving, what we would say is that's it, we're done. I also think of some experiences at Suppers at Second. You know, this amazing ministry where we cook a meal every Wednesday night, and we invite the community to come, no charge. Let's enjoy a meal together. And every once in a while, someone will come through the line. And I remember one distinctly with Marty Brubaker, cooked an amazing meal. And the person complained that there's not enough salt. And Marty and I looked at each other and just laughed. But there's something inside of you that just is like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, Marty has been in that kit. He took the day off of work, and he's worked all day to make this meal. And now you're telling him there's not enough salt. So it's a little thing, but it gets at our motives. Why are we doing this? Because if it's a self-serving reason, believe me, we will not persevere. Here's the second takeaway about the fact that there's opposition. We are going to face opposition. I love this quote by Joel Sutherland. He says, any theology of evangelism, and by evangelism, we're talking about reaching out to people who are disconnected from God. Any theology of evangelism that ignores spiritual warfare dooms evangelism from the beginning. It would be like a coach of a football team gathering his offense together and dialing up this incredible play, but forgetting to say to his team that, oh yes, there are 11 people standing on the other side trying to stop you. There is a defense. There is some opposition. You see, God has a mission to seek and save the lost, and he has a method, and that method is us. But Satan also has a mission, and that is to stop it from happening. And so we've got to understand there is going to be opposition, which is why we hand out the prayer guides. The only way this mission goes forward is not through our efforts, our human efforts. It goes forward by the Spirit of God. And so if this is not going to be saturated in prayer, again, we're wasting our time. Continue reading. Paul says, for the appeal that we make does not spring from error or impure motives, nor are we trying to trick you. This is not a bait and switch. On the contrary, we speak as men approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel. We are not trying to please men, but God who tests our hearts. You know that we never used flattery, nor did we put on a mask to cover up greed. God is our witness. We were not looking for praise from men, not from you or from anyone else. So the reason Paul's making this defense is because he's being accused of doing exactly those things. He's saying your relationship was insincere. You didn't really care about this church. You just want another church to support you, to give you some money. You want to make a name for yourself. But Paul's conscience is clear. We did not try and trick you. There was never a bait and switch. And we never did this to get your praise or anybody else's praise. This was always about honoring God. It was a sign of our worship to God. Now, as we advance in the passage, we get to what I think is the pearl of the passage. There's a verse we're about to read that I think is going to be such a guide for us as we think about reaching out to our one. It's a verse that speaks to our culture today. I hope I got your attention. As apostles of Christ, we could have been a burden to you, but we were gentle among you, like a mother caring for her little children. We loved you so much that we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well, because you had become so dear to us. That is a diamond. We loved you so much that we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel, but our lives as well, because you had become so dear to us. Now, as I read that sentence, I recognize some of us might need to hear it in the reverse. That we loved you so much that we were delighted to share with you not only our lives, because sometimes it's easier to do that. We're afraid to add the gospel part. We're delighted to share with you not only our lives, but the gospel as well. So our lives and the gospel, they go hand in hand. Friends, in our culture today, people are suspicious of the church. I don't think that comes as news to anyone. There's just kind of a latent negative attitude amongst many people who are not part of the church. They have stereotypes. They believe certain things about the church. And so the method of evangelism of kind of the drive-by pepper spray, here's the gospel, that is not going to work. The only way that we're going to engage people is by actually inviting them to be part of our life. And that's what the scripture tells us to do. We loved you so much that we're delighted to share with you not only the gospel, yes, the gospel, but our lives as well. And there's no timetable on that. So when we say each one, reach one, this is what you are being invited to do. You are being invited to invest deeply in the life of another person. You are being invited to invest intentionally in the life of another person. You might have to rearrange your schedule. You might have to do things that you wouldn't normally do. You might have to invite someone to your house for a meal. We're inviting you to love someone. We're inviting you to pray for someone, not as your project, but as the way that you honor God, because this is what He has designed us to do. Maybe there will be immediate fruit. We might see people come to know Jesus right away, get connected to the community of faith right away, and maybe not. But we're not in it for a certain length of time. We are in this. When you love someone, that doesn't end. So the last couple of weeks, we have been showing testimonies, and this week's, I think, is really special because it comes to us from Elizabeth Moat, who is in Kuwait. Am I right? Kuwait? Yeah, who's in Kuwait, serving in the military. And she took a few minutes to record herself and send it to us as she thinks about reaching out to her one. So I want to share that with you now.
Good morning, church family. This is Elizabeth Moat, Miss Moat, or Lieutenant Moat, coming at you from beautiful Kuwait. When I heard that y'all were doing a series on the one or your one, it got me thinking about what do I do as a witness for my one? And I'm not gonna lie to you, I have many, many ones, because it seems like people are put in my life for a brief point of time and then leave, and that's great. But I'm gonna tell you an unconventional way that I believe is my best witness to my one. I apologize. I tell them when I'm wrong, and I own up to my mistakes. Growing up a preacher's kid, everybody knows the preacher's family's perfect, right? You know. Sorry, Brother Scott and family. But no one can be perfect. No one, ever. It is a lot stronger of a witness, in my humble opinion, when someone falls and you see how they react to a fall. Everybody loves to jump on the bandwagon when a sports team is winning, but wait till they start losing. That's when the dedicated fans stay around. That's when the true fans are there. When all the smoke and mirrors is taken away, all the championship rings are gone, that's the test of a true witness. What do I do when I fall? How do I react? Do I apologize? Do I admit when I'm wrong? And how do I fix it? So, church family, I know that that's unconventional, and I know that it's not the thinking of most people. But for my one, the way that I witness to my one is I admit my mistakes. And it's taken me many years to get to this point, to where I'm comfortable admitting my mistakes. Nobody wants to follow perfection. Everybody wants to see how a Christian reacts when you fail.
That is also a diamond. That is gold. Nobody wants to follow perfection. And maybe that's part of the reason that the community has a negative feeling towards the church is over the years, maybe we've made the message about us. You know what's really attractive to people is when they can see us being vulnerable to say, you know what, we don't have it all together either. But what are we? We are one thirsty traveler going to the well and inviting another thirsty traveler to the well. Let's stand as we close in worship.